Welcome back to The Evolution of a Snake. I'm Zach.
And I'm Madeline.
And this is 1989ology. We are so excited to be Swifties here with you today, talking about the HBIC, to be quite frank. But let's start with the very first vault track, which I listened to up first, and I thought that was going to be a mistake, and it wasn't. So Taylor described this song in the little behind the scenes music thing. She said that it was between putting this and Blank Space on the record. Obviously, Blank Space is a supermodel, but something that I thought was very interesting and that I clocked immediately in the first two lines of this song. She said that she felt like 1989 was such a city record. It was about New York, and she felt like this song was an LA song. And I immediately got that from the first line. Flamingo Pink, Sunrise Boulevard. Obviously, I got like a Palm Springs, the Trixie Motel from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, if you're familiar.
Ever heard of it?
That was kind of the picture of what I saw. And I love the scene setting here and how we kind of start off in this liminal space. And I think that's what a lot of the 1989 vault tracks are about, is like being kind of in between things, which I think is interesting.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think this is like almost a quintessential vault track, if that makes any sense. If there was such a thing as the perfect vault track, this would definitely be it. Like, we get exactly why it was cut. We understand that it just fell short against a Amazonian goddess, and it just had to go. But it's not something that was ever bad or left behind, or et cetera, et cetera. It completely does what it does do what Blank Space does, but it does it differently, and it does it in a more melancholy way and a more romantic way that I find. I think that they're two sides of the same coin, and so I'm really enjoying having this like other look into Taylor's psyche during 1989 and the way that she felt about the way that she had been treated in the media.
And also, she was very, like, on Blank Space, she was very combative. It was very kind of like, this is what you think about me. Well, I'm going to use it to my advantage. I'm going to turn it on its head. But unfortunately, like, the characterization of her in the media had more of an impact than just making her write her greatest song of all time. I think at that time, she was very unlikely to show weakness in public. She really was trying to put on a brave face. And I think, like you said, we get that melancholy, that other side of this. And yeah, it's so interesting. In the pre-chorus, she has the lovelorn and nobody knows, I'll pay the price you won't. I thought that was super interesting that she had that realization of what it meant for her to be in a public relationship, because we don't get that on Speak Now Fearless or Red, really, this reckoning with her persona at all. So I thought that it was interesting that she knew kind of off the bat before it even got started. And also, sorry, the sequence of the vault tracks, the way that they're sequenced makes so much sense to me on the record. I love, for once, it seems like there's a purpose in having them in that order.
Yeah.
I love that she talks about the price that she's going to pay.
So something that's really interesting, which I don't use the word lovelorn a lot. I don't see it. So I looked it up because I wanted to know exactly what it meant. And it surprised me because it turns out that you're unhappy. If you're lovelorn, you're unhappy because your love is unrequited, which I didn't know that. And so I thought it was really interesting, especially thinking about in Say Don't Go, which I think is also about Harry. I mean, this song, I think we can all agree is about Harry. But
yes.
Say Don't Go, where she says on the bridge, I said, I love you, you say nothing back. So I thought that I don't think I ever thought that she felt, I don't know if it's true or not, that she felt that Harry did not feel the same way about her as she did about him. So I thought that was a very interesting insight into the relationship.
And that was a through line I felt through all of the vault tracks, this idea of being more into something than someone else. That's a very painful experience, one I think that she's too familiar with. It upsets her to be in that kind of frame of mind. But also the nobody knows part I thought was interesting, lovelorn and nobody knows, because she goes on to mention that she will return. I don't know if it's in this song or a different song, that she'll return to being a shrouded mystery who Harry was, who she was when Harry was trying to chase her. And I thought that there was something interesting there about how she puts on a front, or like maybe had learned to become a bit more guarded when it came to being pursued by famous men.
But I think my favorite line in the whole song is, got lovesick all over my bed. because I love a play on words. I always love a play on words, but there's something about it that's like, it's obviously being presented as like romantic. It's like, oh, I'm getting lovesick. But I also feel like it's about, the lovesickness is more about like anxiety in this particular usage that she's using it than it is just like, oh, I'm so in love and et cetera, et cetera. So I what I love the most about the song is the way that she delivers lines. Like, it's so sad, and like the song itself is so sad, and it's like almost masquerading itself as this big romantic song. I think it's my favorite of all the Vault tracks, which is funny because when I first heard it, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Well, that's because it wasn't what I
expected. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love. I think this is probably in my opinion, the best one.
It's very Reputation coded. I love
very
the chorus
much
because it does contend with the same themes on Reputation. It's like trying to make an effort to hide something, eventually kind of giving up on it anyway, accepting that the outside world may actually play a part in destroying the relationship. If they call me a slut, you know, it might be worth it for once. Very interesting.
She
was a lot more invested in this relationship than I thought.
Oh, she was.
A lot
oh my
more.
gosh. Oh my gosh. She was a lot. She was ready to risk it all. Literally.
She said,
she
pop
was
star who?
Fine. Call me a whore. I don't care.
Give
Maybe
me that
I am.
acne riddled
You know
man.
What?
Get him over here.
I am his whore. I'm his whore, and I don't care if he knows it.
I will make his breakfast. I will make his dinner. I will clean his shoes. I will wipe his ass. She loved him. But the second verse to me was so incredibly interesting and like reveals so much about their dynamic and how she was aware of it. Send the code, he's waiting there. The sticks and stones they froze midair. So I thought that the send the code, he's waiting there was also kind of a hint at the liminal space that their relationship existed in. They were in like hotels. They were also like hunters and foxes. They were having to hide and be sneaky, which adds to the whole kind of like melancholic, hazy vibe. What did you make of that part of it?
I definitely agree that Send the Code, he's winning there suggests that their whole relationship took place going from one place to another because they were constantly trying to hide from and it's such a weird way to have a relationship if you think about it. Like constantly being at the Trixie Motel. Eventually the Trixie Motel isn't really that romantic anymore. The thing I love the most about the second verse is the line that directly follows that. Everyone wants him if that was my crime. I mean, girls... It is so good. It is such a good lyric. Because really, that was her only crime, is dating somebody that everybody else wanted. That's all she ever fucking did. And that's why everybody called her a fucking slut. Because she was always dating these men like Jake Gyllenhaal, like John Mayer, like, I guess, Joe Jonas for a time.
The boy band fervor is something that is so different to anything else. And a big part of like keeping young women interested in boy bands is how they have to like really maintain a certain kind of public image and keep up the illusion that maybe this guy, your dream guy, can be your boyfriend. So when they get into relationships, it kind of disrupts the idea. It's also, I think, why they like to make things up like Larry, because it's like, oh, well, he's not with another girl. So it's like they want to have some sort of ownership of the person. And it's interesting because I know that in a lot of like, you know, the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, they were always told that they couldn't publicly date. And also the gay ones were told not to come out because that would burst the illusion too. I know that in K-pop, they're really crazy about like making sure that their idols don't like publicly flaunt relationships and things like that. And their fans get very vitriolic about it. So it's interesting that Taylor was aware that this was happening at the time and that for a moment, his fame and the power of his celebrity really eclipsed hers. I think that was something that was not a familiar experience to her, and it was not something that she liked. Like his crime was, she said she had to break her own heart. He was too polite to do it. So his main crime was like not being consistent or having a follow through with her, rather than really damaging her the way that her immediate exes preceding this had. Like they treated her like shit and she was treated like garbage. He didn't do that, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think she definitely, like, maybe it's just like the beginning when it's like everything's new and like it seems like he's like such a great guy at this time, and then I mean, you know, things happen down the line that, you know, there wasn't gentleman behavior when you're in the hot tubbing with all the models. That wasn't not the actions of a gentleman. So I think this is like her like love struck phase, you know what I mean? Like, oh, he's so great, look at him hugging me after somebody called me a whore on the internet. He's a gentleman.
What a sweet guy. It's okay,
guy.
I can be a slut, it's fine, it might be worth it. I love the production on this too. It's very magical, it's very dreamy, it's very mystical. I heard a lot of people say that the vault tracks sound like Midnight's outtakes. And I can kind of see why you would think that, but to me, these songs are so true to the sonic palette of 1989 that they slot right in to me.
Well, I think a lot of it is just like Jack's influence, because Jack was he is like, isn't he like the main producer on Midnights, and he's the main producer on the Vaults as well. I think so much of that has to do with that. I thought the same thing too. I was like, these kind of are reminding me of Midnights a little bit. This one kind of reminds me of Midnight Rain a little bit, but not so much that I'm like, oh my god, it's the same song. This song actually reminds me, if it reminds me of anything, it reminds me the closest of Dress on Reputation. Like that, you know, that little like doo 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 like tinkling that happens at the beginning of the song? That reminds me of Dress.
Not a wind chime, but it's like a shimmering sound. I don't know how to describe it.
Yes.
Ooh, the bridge.
Half asleep, taking your time in the tangerine neon light. This is luxury. So in my lyrical analysis, I said that I think that it's about like being together alone, like moments that they could be together alone were complete. That was luxury to them. And it goes back to what you were saying about how the whole song takes place in a liminal space. Like, the whole song takes place in motel rooms, and that's their luxury. And not because they're in a fancy hotel room, but because they're together and they're alone. I mean, there's something really romantic about the idea of it, but from the outside looking in, you're like, this kind of sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
This does not sound like fun.
It sounds like it's doomed. There's definitely that impending sense of doom in that song. Yep. This reminds me of Cruel Summer a little bit, in the hang your head low in the glow of that vending machine light. It gave that. And that is another line that is, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Like, truly,
if you don't, you don't.
It is truly poetic. It's visual. It's an image.
Yep.
And so is this moment here. So there are parallels between other songs that she's written before, and you're not saying you're in love with me, but you're going to
serve. I loved the confidence and the surety of oneself in saying that, like, you know, you're not saying it yet, but you will, which is also kind of dark, because then in the immediate song following it, she says, I say I love you, you say nothing back. It's like, oh girl, hold on. There's a freight train coming.
I think he eventually did say it back. That's kind of my interpretation. With all you had to do is stay and I wish you would. There's a missing stepping stone between the dissolution of the relationship and him coming back and begging for more. That's the piece that we're missing in a song.
That is very, we're not getting that connection.
There's two separate, like, distinct feelings that she has. One is like, I'm really trying to hold on to this and you're forcing me to let go. And the other one being like, I let go. Now you say you want it back. It's just too late. Could have been easy. All you have to do is stay.
Got his ass. As usual, he's getting cooked left and right. And I'm there watching. And I'm loving the movie. Thank you so much.
I'm loving the movie. It's a big mistake, I said. It might blow up in your pretty face. I'm not saying do it anyway, but you're going to. I think they were both likely getting advice from their representatives that this was not a good idea. Taylor, any good publicist worth their salt would tell Taylor that, like, you don't want to be doing this. And I'm sure Harry's management was saying that even more strongly because they were protecting the boy band thing, the brand. And both of them said, screw you.
They said, we're in love and we're going to make it work. I think it's a stupid title. I don't think that the title fits the song, really. I don't like it. Maybe I'll come to like it and I'll see the light, whatever. But I think Lovesick would have been a lot better title, because I think it kind of encapsulates the whole, like, it captures the vision of the whole song. I think Lovesick would have been a very good title. And I'm sticking to that.
I think that Slut was a good title just from a drum up hype and curiosity about the song. From a marketing perspective, it was the right thing to do. But from a creative perspective, I think Lovelorn even would be a good title.
Ooh, that would be a good
title. It just rolls off the tongue. It rolls off the goddamn tongue.
The other one that she talked about was Now That We Don't Talk. She didn't talk about Say Don't Go. We have no information.
Okay.
But Diane Warren said, man, this song would be a hit. Which I don't know if it would be like a hit. I get why it was left off, because I feel like what it does, other songs on the album do better. I'm not saying that I don't like it. I do like it. My favorite part's the bridge, but it's very straightforward. You know, it's just like, I'm anxious. You're leaving. I'm leaving, and I want you to beg me not to leave, but you don't give a shit. Like, it's not. It's a great song. You know, great gowns, beautiful gowns. We clapped.
It sounds rather Jack to me, especially in the verses. If I can hear the fun production, I can hear it there. I think what I wrote when I was trying to do my lyric analysis was that this song falls prey to the slightly weaker side of the 1989 non-specific songwriting, and that it's just a tad too generic.
Exactly.
Like it's not specific enough to be still a Taylor Swift sounding song. And I think the reason why it sounds so good and why I still like it is because Taylor's unique skill as a songwriter is melodic songwriting. So the melody on this song is amazing, which is why that refrain of like, why'd you have to leave me on, twist the knife, those aren't really good lyrics, but the melody is super catchy and it's really, really good. Yeah. So that's to me why it sounds good. There are some like the writing is not that good. I'm standing on a tightrope alone halfway out the door. That mixed metaphor, like you don't walk out of a door and get on a tightrope. That doesn't really make sense to me.
Cook, get her ass, get her.
Get her.
It's just like exactly what you said. Like it's kind of generic. Like it's not super special, which is like crazy because Diane Warren has written some fantastic fucking songs, but I think that their songwriting styles don't match up, which is why they never wrote more than just one song together, because this just isn't clicking for me. Again, I love the bridge,
but it's also saying things that we already know and get from other Vault songs, even like Shot in the Darkest Dark, that liminal space thing, them having secret rendezvous, him leaving suddenly, not giving it back. I said I love you, you say nothing back. That's the clue that we needed.
Now that's the delivery. It's the delivery, the way that she sings it. I mean, I feel like this happened just yesterday. From the power with which she is singing about it. It sounds really good. That's my favorite part of the song. Her delivery,
I don't think she had ever said
bellissimo.
She was in love with Harry before that song. Like, we knew it was a thing. We knew they were dating, but I didn't hear the word love being mentioned.
I mentioned this in the write-up I did about 1989 TV. I feel like she reeled it in for the songs that she put on 1989. Oh, yeah. And she held it back. And she reeled in how deeply she felt about it, and she also reeled in how much he actually hurt her. Like, I mean, Is It Over Now is the most damning thing I think she's ever written about him.
Oh, wow.
She cooked him like a Thanksgiving turkey. I tell you what.
And
so
I
it's
ate it all up. I ate it all up. I agree with you. I think also when I was revisiting some of the interviews in 1989 for a video I was doing, in the Rolling Stone interview, she's like so adamant about the fact that she doesn't want people to think that this album is about a boy. She is very clearly rebranding and refocusing on like feminism and living in a big city and being an independent pop star. I think she was a bit sick and tired of every record being like so attached to a man, which is funny when you put a song called Style on the record. But Style, again, is like tongue in cheek. Blank Space is tongue in cheek. These aren't serious. They're not. I think she wanted to show she had a sense of humor about herself. And these songs are like more traditionally Taylor Swift in that they're like about her feelings. So she wanted to keep 1989 a little bit. You know how we always say she kept us kind of like at arm's length a little bit for a period of time?
Yeah.
That was what she was doing with this, I feel.
And now look at us all these years later and we're feasting on the scraps.
These are the best vaults, by the way. By far the most interesting material, the most consistently good, the most thematically, sonically cohesive, as you might say. I'm very pleased with these vaults. Speak Now vaults suck in comparison.
Yeah, it's the most disappointing vault. I mean, I should take Fearless vaults.
No, Fearless is.
Fearless vaults for something else. Speak Now, second to last.
World. So I like Say Don't Go. I think it melodically it's very interesting to me. We get that nugget, but otherwise I would say it's probably from a writing POV the weakest or the second weakest. Now let's get into the supermodel on this fucking record. Something that shouldn't have been kept in the vault, should have been released and freed. Something that is criminally short. Now That We Don't Talk. Her introduction to this was super interesting. So she said that they couldn't get the production right on this song in time for the album to come out. And this song fits 1989 more in the sense that it's like got a tongue-in-cheek element to it. It's kind of funny. It's not so like sad and serious. They couldn't get the production right. And to me, this is a draft in the truest sense, and that like it's unfinished. Like when you get to that last line, you're waiting for another chorus to come in or another bridge. It's so, so good. And it just kind of doesn't get there. It
just dies. It just goes into nowhere. But
which is so sad to me. So, I'm kind of like, you couldn't get your pen out and just do, like, I wouldn't care. I would turn a blind eye.
Make it up.
Just literally do it all too well.
We don't care. We wouldn't even know.
Give us a little
something.
Squiggle. I think it actually would have been the best vault song if it had another 30, 45 seconds. Easily, just because it's so it's a banger. What else can I say? So I think that the first verse is very interesting. You went to a party. I heard from everybody. You part the crowd like the Red Sea. Don't even get me started. Did you get anxious though on the way home? I thought that this is such. I guess we'll never know now that we don't talk. Now that we don't talk is the kind of refrain that gets kicked in over and over again, which is so smart the way that she's set it up here. But what I love about that is that I think that this is the true feeling of like knowing someone, really knowing someone and what makes a breakup so painful, and that you know how their private self feels with like in contrast with their public persona. So like Harry Styles to me seems like a very charismatic, affable person, but clearly he's a little like he's got a little social anxiety. He doesn't always feel that way inside. And I think Taylor is the same. And I think this is an incredible way to set up that feeling of not having closeness anymore.
Precisely. That's what I got out of it too. And I also like the way that she says, don't even get me started, when she talks about like, oh, you know, you walk into a party and like everybody knew you were there and everybody's amazed, like, oh my God, he's here. And she's just like rolling her eyes at that, like, don't even get me fucking started. Because she knows that to an extent, it's kind of like an act that he puts on. I can take like this song being about Harry Styles, like I'm not saying that's not, but I definitely get.
You're wrong. You're literally wrong. This is 100% about Harry Styles, and I have proof.
No, what's your proof?
We'll get into it as we go through the song.
Well, but the part about
proof.
I don't think Harry Styles wants to be in a mega yacht with important men who think important thoughts.
He does.
That sounds like oh my
he's
God.
He's always on a boat. He's always on those mega yachts. He is. There are so many photos of him on them. He's like really into them with models and stuff. Like that was his thing for a while when he had the ugly long hair. There was like a photo of him every other day on these mega yachts when One Direction was like really getting to the end of their tenure and they were all kind of having like a little bit of a degenerate experience. Zayn had left. It was falling apart. And he also Harry Styles is a bit of a bootlicker when it comes to like powerful men. It's weird. Like he's super into acid rock. That's kind of was like the inspiration for a lot of his records. So I think it's definitely about him. It looks like you're trying lives on. I thought that was interesting because Taylor has never been one to try other lives on. That's not her journey. That's not her experience. Like she's always been, I feel, so stable in her sense of self, even when she's trying new things. Like it always is very Taylor, and she's very sure of her like creativity and her process. And I think that makes her secure and like safe in who she is as a person. And Harry at this time, I think, was really suffering creatively in One Direction. Like the music was just getting worse and worse, and he knew that he was going to go solo. And I remember it took him a long time to figure out what his sound was going to be. Some might say that his sound is not that interesting or original and that he's not that good of an artist.
Might say.
That's just what I would say. I don't know who would say that, but some might say that. So I think that it's interesting that Taylor would see that and look down upon it because she's like, I miss the old ways. You didn't have to change. But I guess I don't have a say now that we don't talk. Also, there isn't really a chorus to this song because to me, the chorus sounds like a pre-chorus.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah. My favorite line in the pre-chorus / chorus is, remind myself the more I gave, you'd want me less. It's actually very sad. And it kind of makes me want to kill myself. Like the more that we're together and the more that I show myself to you and the more that I am who I am around you, you just completely turn away from me. It's like he was just like so uninterested. And like going back to like what you're saying and like the first verse, like, oh, trying lives on and like you growing your hair out, you're trying different versions of yourself. I feel like Taylor is always so earnest and she always just is who she is, and it's like I don't think that was attractive to him for whatever reason because he doesn't even know who he himself is. So it's exactly. A very like it's deceivingly complex. The song is like there's a lot to pick into, especially thinking about him.
It can be intimidating too when you are feeling unstable in yourself. It can be very intimidating to be with someone that is very sure of what they want. And I think that in general, Taylor is not a game player when it comes to romance too. Like she mentions in another song, I don't know if it's this one, but I wanted you to show me your hand of cards and you wouldn't, so I'm going to fold now, because she had hers on the table. She was ready to put them out there and really get into it. I also love Andrea just being mentioned in this song because she does call her mom all the time. We know that in times of crisis, there's no therapist. There's only Andrea Swift.
And the vocal delivery.
Swift. I also love, I cannot be your friend, so I pay the price of what I lost. And it's when she comes back around to that, I guess, where she says, I can't pretend it's platonic. It's just ended. I was like,
it's so sad.
I feel very seen by that. I feel very seen by it. And it reminded me of that video of them. You know what I'm talking about, in the lobby, like kind of freshly after they broke up. They had
With
like
Haim.
bumped into each other.
Yeah.
And her body, he looked fine. Her body language was so like, get me out of here. It's painful to pretend that we are friends. I don't want that from you.
That's exactly what it's giving. Like, I can't even pretend to just like have a normal conversation with you because it's just over, and I don't really want anything to do with it right now, because to her, baby, it was the end of the world. And meanwhile, he's in the hot tub again. I keep coming back to this. He was in the hot tub.
Then we kind of go through, and she talks about her friends, his friends, their shared dinners, kind of classic things you think about when you're going through a breakup. Then we have the chorus again. The chorus is good. I just wish there was like more of it and more to it.
Yeah. And it's also one of those songs where it's like building up to something, but then it never gets there. That kind of thing drives me crazy. But god damn it.
And it deserves so bad. The outro is where I think this song goes into like, I bet you think about me territory, because she cooks him in a sense of like, you did something bad to me, but now she's making fun of him. And I love it when Taylor goes on the drag. She doesn't do it very often. So interesting that both of her like drag making fun of these guys songs got chopped. I bet you think about me, left off. Now that we don't talk, left off. I don't have to pretend I like acid rock or that I'd like to be on a mega yacht with important men who think important thoughts. Queen.
She was telling him, I'm not doing that shit anymore, man. I'm over it. I want to go to frozen yogurt. Can you go to frozen yogurt?
She said, Mom, I am important men who think important thoughts.
Yeah. Mom, I am important men. And it's like, yeah, speak on it. Speak.
And it's so interesting, going back to what you said earlier about how he would withdraw the more she revealed herself to him. She says at the end, the only way to get back to my dignity was to turn into a shrouded mystery, just like I had been when you were chasing me. And it's interesting that he was more interested in her. This is like, I feel like a classic young guy thing. It's like the chase is always more satisfying than the reward. And so she was like, I wonder if in her head, she was kind of like, maybe if I just get mysterious and he'll want me back. And he did.
Guess what? She was over it by that point. Rat.
Smacked on the smack.
Delicious. A delicious song. It is truly a morsel. That's the thing. It's a chocolate chip. Next.
So now we get into Suburban Legends.
She's kind of a mystery to me. Like, I don't return to it. I feel like when I'm listening to the vault now, I'm going back to other songs. I don't go back to it. But when I was writing the lyrics down and like really thinking about it, I was like, oh, this is quite interesting, really. You have to give it another chance.
This is another
nugget.
I
love the ending. It's a nugget. It's a nugget. You had people who called you on unmarked numbers in my peripheral vision. I mean, hello, models calling Harry Styles' phone from burner phones for whatever reason. But then she does, I think we agree, this is like the worst metaphor I've ever heard. I let it slide like a hose on a slippery plastic summer. Like, why are we slip and slide metaphor?
It doesn't.
Like, you
it doesn't.
Come up
and
with
also,
else?
you don't. The line is always quickly forgiven. You don't forgive a hose for being slippery. The hose is not asking for your forgiveness.
No,
the hose does not want an apology.
The hose does not ask. The hose doesn't expect anything. The hose just wants you to play. The hose wants to slip and slide. Let's go.
Tried to be "You're on your own, kid" first verse so bad, and it flopped.
So that is not great. It's a part of the song I really don't like. But this is
not
probably
a good part.
One of my favorite lines on the whole vault. She says, you were so magnetic it was almost obnoxious. Flush with the currency of cool, but I was always turning out my empty pockets. Because she didn't, I think it's like a very good turn of phrase. Like, you were flush with the currency of cool, but I was broke in terms of being cool. Harry was like, for a time, I mean, especially then, even though he was in like One Direction, which to a lot of people was cringe, I feel like still to this day he's seen as like very cool.
He was like the heartthrob
guy.
One Direction was cringe, but Harry was like the one that everybody loved, and the one that like Justin Timberlake, the guy that people love from the group, always is like a hero, kind of. Something I like about this song, though, is that I like when she's writing to someone instead of about someone or trying to explain something. Like the way that she kind of just immediately gets straight into it with, you had people who called you, you know? It brings you into the confession element of it. And that's a part of her songwriting, I think, that is really generally something that allows her to connect instantly.
Yes.
The chorus is extremely interesting. And it only gets more interesting as we get into the second chorus, too. My favorite part is, I didn't come here to make friends. We were born to be suburban legends. I think this betrays both, first of all, her clear-eyed assessment of what it means to be a pop star and what her purpose is. I didn't come here to make friends. I'm not here to be the nicest person in the room. I'm not here to give everyone a favor. I'm not here to give everyone a leg up. There's only one number one spot at the top of the charts, and I would like to be at it. And the "we were born to be suburban legends" part, I think, shows a real cognizance of like what her career was and what his career was at that moment. And the National Treasures line later on reminds me of this too. It's like they both didn't really have the cultural cachet of being like rock stars or of being like cool artists that like Pitchfork loved or that would get a really good reception in LA or New York. But they were huge in Middle America, like the biggest, most successful in places where taste is not considered to be in abundance. So I thought that it was so interesting. Like, in a way, only those two could, at that time, could really understand what their careers were and what their positions were in the public landscape.
I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, because that's not, because I watched your reaction video and I heard you say that too, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Because what I thought, I think yours is more interesting for the record, but what I thought was like the word legend calls to mind something that's over a national treasure. It's like, it's not, you know what I mean? So I kind of took it as like, oh, we were born to be, like, this is doomed. Like, we were born to be a legend, you know? And, like, bringing up high school and, like, the reunion is just, like, this is something that is over. It's interesting both. I think yours is a lot
I feel
more
your interpretation
complex,
of it, too.
But I think it works both ways. So I think that's really interesting. But my favorite line in the whole song is, "And you kiss me in a way that's going to screw me up forever." I love
it.
I
wish she would say
so
"fuck me up forever," but we know she wasn't going to swear on 1989. That just wasn't a reality.
No, not on the Bible. This is the
wasn't
Bible.
The journey.
Please, respect.
That was not going to be part of it.
Respect the space, please.
Respect what's going on here.
Yeah.
The second verse is one big ass fucking cricket to me. Cricket. I hate school. Enough of school.
Hates the school metaphors. Zach hates
no
the
more.
high school metaphor. I don't mind it, but I think it does kind of take us out. I get what she's trying to do. She's talking about suburbia, and what is everybody doing in suburbia? They are going to school, I guess, going to high school. You know, every show that's about high school is centered on, mostly, not Gossip Girl, but it's mostly set in like suburban America and stuff like that. So I get what she's getting at, but I feel like she could have done something else with it. And I think
also, they were a very classic couple. He was a heartthrob. She was like red lip classic. Like, I understand, but my note here is, I graduated. I don't like it when we go to school. Lazy, boring.
Yeah. The only school reference that I like is when she says she's standing in a 1950s gymnasium, because I wish I would have ever stood in a 1950s gymnasium. I tell you what, seems like the time to be in the gymnasium, baby. 1950s. I broke my own heart because you were too polite to do it. Now, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
I think that, and it's kind of like what we were talking about before, about how Harry was just like sort of non-committal, and he was even non-committal about like breaking up. Like, he wasn't even fully committed to that.
He made her do it.
I think that's kind of like the thing. He made her leave because it just wasn't ever going to change. So I think that's highly, and it's like, I don't know if I get the lyric, but it's like, thinking about it that way, it's like, it doesn't sound polite to me. It sounds like a little bitch ass.
Well, there's something about Britishness there. Like, British people, like, being polite and like having manners is a lot of the times considered to be more important than expressing your true feelings. So I feel like, and Harry does give that like bumbling, fumbling, like, oh, cheerio, like that, like annoying deference. You have a deference to the opinions of other people, which seems polite, but it's actually not fucking polite. It's actually very insidious to behave like that because it's dishonest. But either way, I think that's what she's getting at there. And then when it goes to immediately waves crash on the shore, I was like, the boat, sad girl on boat. Exactly. Period.
And you know what? You didn't even know it was coming.
I didn't know. That's what was so good.
That was
that's what I mean. The sequence of these vault tracks, the way it revealed the relationship to me, it's like almost in chronological order. It's crazy.
Literally, she's literally telling the story. She's doing Haylor. She's doing
for once in her life,
in front of our eyes.
For once in her life.
She told a chronological story. I don't think she ever has before, except for you could
Never.
make the argument for Red, but too much goes on there. You know, like she starts it one way, she ends it another.
Maybe
it's just
Reputation.
Jumbled.
Maybe Reputation.
Ooh, we'd have to think about that. Another favorite part of the song for me is how she ends it. She says, "And I always knew it, that my life would be ruined again." I mean, think about Wildest Dreams. She again about Harry Styles, as we know. She was so fatalistic about this whole thing. She always thought it was just fucking doomed, and she was right.
And she was
That's
right.
The crazy thing.
She's literally right.
She's always right, but she doesn't care.
And also,
she's gonna be a slut.
Our inclination to Haylor is right, and the reason why it's right is because, as I said, it has the most material. It had the most lasting impact on her, despite being one of the shortest things, and it keeps rearing its head. Like it keeps coming up, and that's amore. And it's like, I'm not even a Haylor. I'm a Taylor.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a Taylor, and this is interesting. We have now arrived at what I believe to be the most juicy, interesting, best written, best sounding vault track. Slut is a close second to me, but this is really like the supermodel, and this is the hayloration. This is Haylorology. This is evolution of a Haylor. And I am so excited and happy to have it. What are your overarching thoughts on this song, Madeline?
Oh, gag of the century. I mean, first of all, information. We were fed information. Second of all, serve. Third of all, gag. Fourth of all, shook. Fifth of all,
absolutely.
Cook.
Scalped.
Scalped, cooked, etc., etc. Overarching feelings, I mean, give it to me, mama. I'm ready.
In her introduction about this song, she said that she really agonized over whether to put this on the record. She thought that it would be fun to close the album with a song called Is It Over Now? And she also said that this song was too similar to Out of the Woods and I Wish You Would. And that's why it got left off. And can I just say that that was my exact prediction on what this would be about, which is not that hard of a prediction to make if you're familiar with the canon. But you know what? I'm going to take the win. I'm going to take the win anyway.
When you said that, I was like, I'm just gonna let him have it.
She is the master of the rumination, of the intrusive thought, of the spiral, of the sitting in the back of the car looking at the passenger window and thinking about things that you should not be thinking about anymore. And the verse starts, once the flight had flown with the wilt of the rose, I slept all alone, you still wouldn't go. Again, I think we see that liminal space. Also, the plane as a motif, traveling, distance, that is something that runs throughout all the Haylor songs, cars, etc.
Alternatively, paper airplanes. Ever heard of it?
Let's fast forward to 300 takeout coffees later.
Crazy. It's so crazy.
Hello.
It's like it's hieroglyphics.
That part is really question to me. I'm like, oh my god. Have you ever had someone kiss you in a crowd? I was like, oh my god, this is really something. This is really like aggressive hand heart, biggest Swiftie that you've ever met in your life. You know what I love here is how she plays with time sometimes. Like the first verse we have, she's very like in a specific moment, and then it's less fast forward, which reminds me of Holy Ground. Like, I guess we fell apart in the usual way. Stories got dust on every page. Like, she skips over stuff, and I think that that's really powerful to show the stacking of time and like how long that it's been and how consistent this rumination, this intrusive thought has been throughout all these takeout coffees and blind dates later. I love the line about her profile and smile on unsuspecting waiters. That gave me Right Where You Left Me. It really did. It really gave me Right Where You Left Me, which I think is another Haylor song. So this pre-chorus, I gotta let you speak because I'll just go on forever.
Well, we come right to my favorite part of it, which is you dream of my mouth before it called you a lying traitor, which I think is just simply it's a roast of him. It is a comment on how you will never find another girl like me. You better believe it.
Promise.
And number 3,
that you'll never
spend the rest
find
of
another
your
like
life.
me.
And also, you search in every man's bed for something greater. You search the world for something that can make you feel like what we had. Ever heard of it? Has anybody ever been to Wonderland in this room? Hello? Like, this is my favorite thing that she does. And it feels like she really does it mostly for Harry. She references
she does.
other songs.
This is an Easter egg.
She loves to do it.
If you like Easter eggs, be a Haylor. If you like Easter eggs, you got to be a Haylor. It's the best one. There's
gotta
the
be a
most
Haylor. You gotta be a
material
Haylor.
to work with.
You've got to be a Haylor. Yep. Delicious. I mean, I was eating that up.
Also, you know what's so funny? Taylor is really good at using corny words and making them not corny. Like maiden is a weird word to use in this context. You know what? It fucking works. Like lover is kind of a corny word, and that worked too.
But she gagged it up. She
uncornied it. She also uses the word surmise in this song, and she uses it flawlessly. I mean, she's a writer.
Love it.
She's a writer. When your lyricism and your melodic songwriting come together and they do a joint slay, we love to see it.
The chorus is, I mean, we were eating.
Jaw
was it
on the floor.
Over when she laid down on your couch? Let me ask you a question.
It's just a question. It's just a question.
Was it over when he unbuttoned my blouse? Was it? I think it's interesting because it's like, was it over when you were with other girls? And then she flips it around. It's like, was it over when I was trying to move on with another dude? Was it over? No, it will never.
When you met some woman on the internet and you took her home, was it over then?
It will never be over.
Was it over then?
It will never be over. I guess.
Does it ever feel like?
That's what this song makes me
everything's
think of.
Just second
I guess
best.
it's never really over.
It is. That's literally what it is. And we've been saying this for years, and finally to have our delusions confirmed is like, they're not. You know what? I take that back. They were not delusions.
They're not delusions.
They were
we were
correct suspicions. Mm-hmm. We were correct. We've been proven.
So write
correct.
that down. Write it.
And was it over when she laid down on your couch?
Fucking episode. Two delusional girls going, exactly. This is Red Scare for Swiftyism.
That's a joke, by the way. That is a joke. Boots. It's a joke.
That's a joke.
Was it over when she laid down on your couch?
Boots.
I heard that you've been out and about with some other girls. When he unbuttoned my blouse, I said, I've been there to a few times. Heard of it.
Care to respond? Anything?
And the part, come here, I whispered it in your ear in your dream as you passed out. Hello. Poems. People.
Fucking crazy. Was it over then?
Losing it.
Does anybody know?
No.
You can't answer that question.
Cricket.
And is it over now?
The next part, is it? That's how it ends. Was it over then? And is it over now? I literally, at this point, we need to strap that man into a chair and ask him the fucking questions. Verse 2. This is when I really knew that I was in, Lady Gaga. She's meditating. Guys, she's died. When you lost control, red blood, white snow.
Well, everybody knows what that was.
Blue dress.
She loves to talk about that like they almost died.
On a boat.
she loves
she really
to talk
is.
about that.
I had a thought about that, though. So when you lost control reminds me of when you hit the brakes too soon. And I think it means a little bit more than just losing control of a vehicle. I feel like it means like prematurely ending something, stopping something, like preventing something from going somewhere and causing an accident, causing something bad to happen. I think there's a double entendre there.
Honestly, I have to tell you the truth. Like, even though this is the Gag of the Century,
cried.
And it references something so core to the canon and the lore, I do wish the lyric was a little bit different. Because it's kind of like, it's just blue dress on a boat.
I think you should
it's
die.
Like only good because we
I think you should be dead.
All right, well, so excuse me. Excuse me for just pointing it out. I feel like it's only as much of a gag as it is, only because we know exactly what it's referencing, which is why she wrote it the way that she did, so that we would know. This is one of those very clear markers that she used to leave in songs all the time, that we can know, like, this is exactly about this exact moment, and we know exactly what happened. So I respect it for
she
what it is,
wanted to be very fucking clear. She was like,
listen,
you will not ever be able to take this song and pretend like it's about something else.
But anyway, I think it, like, she wants us, it's one of those situations where she's in for the cook, and she wants us to know, yes, I was on the boat, and he's a fuck. Like, she wants to be very clear up.
And she was right.
So, yes.
And she was so right.
She was right. And then...
Now, this bridge...
Your new girl is my clone. I mean, that's crazy. And the bridge...
don't care to know.
This is my moment. The way that... I mean, how do you even begin?
It's everything.
Did you think
it's everything.
I didn't see you? There were flashing lights.
I'm scared.
At least I had the decency to keep my nights out of sight. Only
Bang.
rumors about my hips and thighs and my whispered sighs,
Guillotine.
oh Lord. I think about jumping off of
God,
tall
oh my God.
somethings.
Oh my God.
Just to see you come running and say the
No.
one thing I've been wanting, but no.
Boo. Hiss.
This is not just something they made. This shit is in different fucking areas.
This is in different areas. We literally have to go like line by line with this because it's so crazy.
Yep.
So, and did you think I didn't see you? There were flashing lights, and at least I had the decency to keep my nights out of sight. He didn't have to be discreet about all the sucking and fucking that he was doing because he was a man. And men don't have that held against them in the public domain. So Taylor was not only not advertising her own sucking and fucking, which clearly she was doing a lot of after that. That complicates things, the stories that she's been telling. She not only had to hide that because of the media attention, but she also was trying to do it, according to her, to be a little bit respectful to him. But I think that breeded some resentment in her about well, why the fuck do I have to pretend that I am doing this? And I would imagine that it probably pisses her off to be like, well, you get to flaunt it in my face every day that you're with someone else, and I have to act like I'm sweet little Miss Virgin over here.
Only rumors about my hips and thighs and my whispered sighs. Oh Lord.
What?
Girl, tell me more.
I'm gonna need you. This one was very difficult to parse for me. What is your interpretation of that?
So when I first
is this just like, there were only rumors about people I was dating and there's nothing confirmed?
I think so. I think that's what it means. And when I first heard it, I think this is only because I was like, so much was happening. I was like, blah, 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 blah. But I thought it was like, there were only rumors about you and me. I thought that's how I read it the first time. There were only rumors about you and me being together, et cetera, et cetera. And then she says she thinks about jumping off a fucking cliff. And not just that she thinks about jumping off the cliff, but she wants to do it specifically so that he will come and save her, which I think is the funniest and craziest thing ever.
That's my Taylor Swift. That's Taylor Swift. Yep. This is the girl that I know and love and I stick around for and I make stupid videos about. She is mentally ill, and I respect that about her because aren't we all? And the delivery of this, the cadence of oh Lord, I think about.
Yeah, she's a genius.
I mean,
why is nobody understanding?
She's a genius.
If you don't get it, I feel sorry for you. I mean, if you don't get it, I feel so sorry for you because this is in different fucking. They don't make this just anywhere. You think Katy Perry has a song like this? She doesn't.
You can't get this at the pop record store.
You can't.
It's
get
not
this
available.
In the Ariana Grande store. They don't have that there.
Mm-mm. You can't go to Max Martin and say, I'll have one of that, please. They don't have it.
No, this is
he doesn't
Jack
have
Antonoff. It. This is called JACK Jack. Ever heard of him?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, I have.
Oh,
yes, the hell I have.
Yep.
This bridge is so linked to the question bridge. It's crazy. Like, it's insane how much of a connection there is between the two of them. I think also something clever about this part here is the delivery and also the specific way she's written this, because saying I'm going to jump off a building is concerning unless you make it funny. And I think that she makes it funny by saying, I want to jump off of a very tall something. Like, she makes it less serious, and she's trying to show that she knows that she's being crazy and she's being dramatic. And it's the sense of humor in it that I think is so great.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't get often about it is like, you know, remember in All Too Well 10, she says like, oh, it made me want to die. And like some like random ass blue check bitch was like, it made you want to die? What kind of message are you sending to young girls? And it's like, I don't know.
She's being hyperbolic. You know what? Sometimes when you say I love you to someone and they don't say I love you back, you want to jump off a very tall something. Let me tell you, you do.
Yeah, let me tell you, you do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with
human experience. No,
that's human experience.
I think it's honest. It's brave. Wow. Best bridge on 1989. It's up there. It's up there.
It's up there. It's definitely up there. It's up there with Out of the Woods, as a matter of fact. I mean, where else would it belong, really? All you had to do was stay.
Else?
I mean, Wildest Dreams.
Hello.
I mean,
I wish you would.
The second pre-chorus, I think I like it more than the first one. Let's fast forward to 300 awkward blind dates later, after all these guys that she's been going out with, and him probably going out with other people too. If she's got blue eyes, I will surmise that you'll probably date her. He continues to be trapped in the wonderland of it all. You search the world for another blue-eyed bitch.
As he should.
That's what you did,
and you won't find.
should, because
There's only one.
I promise that you'll never find
Dumbass.
another like me.
Exactly. And all you had to do was stay, and you didn't. So canceled. Hoo hoo hoo. For the one time. Hoo hoo hoo.
You dream of my mouth before it called you a lying traitor. We knew that. You search in every model's bed for something greater. She's cooking models too. She's cooking models. She funny.
Said, but she became one.
In 1989.
That was the purpose.
I think it's very interesting.
One has to wonder if that was part of the motivation. I have to say.
One has to wonder.
For the Victoria's Secretification of her. One has to wonder.
Just like, I have to assimilate. I have to assimilate.
And she did. And maybe he'll come back.
Baby. Yeah, and maybe he'll come back. Well, that's because then she just repeats, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. From a songwriting perspective, this is the best one.
Well, this is also the best one in terms of like the most to mine, the most to look at. It's the most like true vault in that it gives us the most backlog information that we wanted to know. We wanted to know this stuff.
You and I can't express how bad we needed to know this information. We've been asking. I always forget to say this, but you got